Hello and welcome to my tutorial video on reading digital and analog inputs with a Raspberry Pi. Today I will be telling you what the difference is between a digital and an analog signal and showing you how you can write a program for your Pi to detect digital and analog inputs. For the purpose of this tutorial, I will be writing all of my code in Java. A digital signal is the simplest control you can input into an electrical device, as there are only two possible states, on or off. Digital input is usually controlled by a button or a switch. An analog signal needs to be sampled from a voltage level into a digital value that can be stored and processed in a computer. This process is called analog to digital conversion. The pins on your Pi can be configured for input. We will be using a Grove Pi board, a digital input of a button, and an analog input of a light sensor. To sense whether or not a button has been pressed, we begin by creating a class. I've called mine button. We then import Grove Pi, pin, all of the sensor classes, and pin mode with the top 4 lines. We then create a main method within the class which contains an instance of a Grove Pi class. That class is device factory, a button sensor instance on pin D4, and our light sensor analog input on pin A0. Finally, we create an infinite while loop which continuously polls the state of the button and prints out whether or not the button has been pressed. The exclamation mark negates, so if the button has not been pressed, then the button is not pressed is printed out on the console. If the button has been pressed, the button is pressed is printed out on the console. We set the value on pin 0 to X, which we initialized before the loop. So let's run the code. When the button is not pressed, it displays that on the console. When I press the button, the data is read from the light sensor and declares that the button is pressed on the console. Try covering the light sensor to make it darker and watch how the value changes.